Okay, welcome back. This is the second part of another Gauntlet 2 review, as promised, with some data, which could all be skewed because of a dirty barrel and a new airgun owner. But let's get to it. My first concern was how the fore-end stock was mounted to the front of the gun. When I mounted the bipod, I noticed that it would touch the barrel. And so what I did was I ran two different tests, one resting on the bipod and one resting by the regulator in the middle of the gun, taking the weight off of that handguard. And it did make a little difference. I'll show you that in the data later. Started off the day with about 3,600 psi. I knew that I was going to get a lot of shots off with this big tank, so I didn't bother filling it all the way up. My chronograph is a 15, 20-year-old shooting crony. I've shot the legs off of it before. The screen plate fell off. The adhesive, gave out after a couple of years. I think it still works okay. It is not one of the fancy chronographs, but that's what I'm using. The pellets that I used were some of the cheapest ones that I could get to start off with. Crossman 14.3 grain, then the 4-pack of JSBs to try out. One is called the Straighten 15.9 grains, RS at 13.4, Heavy at 18.1, and the Monster at 25.4. I don't know if the redesign is that much better. I do have a batch of that coming, so apparently there's going to be a part 3, a long-term review after break-in, so stay tuned for that. I measured some of the pellets in each sample, and they all measured 0.216, 0.215, 0.217, somewhere around there. Here you can see their sizes next to each other. The left one is the Crossman, the ones on the right are the JSBs. The Crossman, I heard, is made a little bit differently. It has antimony or something, and so you could feel the difference when inserting it into the gun. It felt like the bolt didn't want to go in, so you had to press that much harder to get it in there. The JSBs were easier to load. There was a little bit of resistance, but nothing a normal person couldn't handle. The data was very interesting. First of all, I guess I'd shot off 2 mags in my house. The groups in white I shot first in the early part of the day, and the groups in yellow I shot later. And you can see that it got significantly faster, as if somehow, maybe by shooting it, all the oil and gunk was blown out of the way. So I'm going to give the barrel a really good scrub and try this again for the long-term review. I ran a barrel scope down after all the shooting when I got home, and it looks pretty clean. There's nothing jammed in there. It doesn't look like there's a lot of oil in there either. Now, if you take a look at the impact points of 2 and 5 and 3 and 6, 2 and 5 we're using the heavy pellets, 3 and 6 we're using the jumbos, monsters. You can see how having the bipod push up against the barrel at 25 yards made about a half-inch difference compared to resting it in the middle without using bipods, having the bipods hang and bring the handguard down. When I took it out to 50 yards, I really liked the performance of the heavy and the monster. As you can see, they're really tight groups, even with a dirty barrel, so I'll update you on that later. At 100 yards, I got a little antsy and really wanted to see what this gun could do, but I didn't want to waste any pellets, so I used the Crossmans and some heavies. The top group was with just 2 or 3 mile-an-hour winds, maybe 5. The second group with the heavies, I really tried to work with the wind and start judging and seeing what I could do, and that's the best that I could do for now. I know the jumbo monsters would be much better at it, so next time. I think I have a fix for this. I'm gonna look at doing a couple of different things. One is I could just go in and try to hacksaw everything on the bottom of the handguard where it touches the barrel, and that'll solve it without any issues. It's going to be a lot of work because how do you get a hacksaw in there? Anyways, number two, what I could do is shim it. And I tried that already. I put a 1 millimeter Allen wrench in between the front handguard and the rear handguard, and that you can see made a huge difference. It is now free floated. I just have to find another piece of metal that I can put between there and maybe have to Dremel out the two set screw holes on top, because I do like having a very solid, hand guard combo. I don't want it moving around. I could leave the screws off, but it's gonna rattle, and who knows what's gonna happen in the future. It could break off on the bottom. So I'll update you with my solution in the third video, long-term review, which will happen weeks or months down the line. Have a good one.